Morning.
Hello.
All right, Jacob.
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Having a good week so far?
Yeah, just got back today from being sick, but
Oh.
better now.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're on the mend, and yeah, I don't envy you there. I know catching up is half the battle. It feels like sometimes.
Yeah.
Hi, Trisha.
Hi, how's everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Hey, Jennifer. Hey, Abra. How are you all?
Hello. I'm also on the mend from being sick like Jacob,
Oh no.
so yeah.
It seems like it's going around. Thankfully, these Teams calls are not contagious. At least I have felt that in my previous experience. But I hope both of you and all of you are either well or on the mend to being well. So,
Thank you.
how are you, Jennifer? Hopefully not sick. Fingers crossed. You're still muted. Oh, still got you muted.
Is that better? Sorry, I'm
Yes.
having a hard time with my Teams,
No, you're
unfortunately.
fine.
There it is. Okay, it's better. I'm fine. Thank you for asking.
Good, good. We've got a combination of then healthy and hopefully soon to be healthy folks on the call. So we'll get started here. We're still a few minutes early, but thank you all for logging on early and for being here. And yeah, we'll get started just afternoon. I always like to give an extra minute or two with all the tech problems that go around. Some people need the extra minute or so. So we'll start in about 4 minutes. Trisha, are you having a good week?
I am. Yesterday it was storming. When we got all the flood, notifications,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know it was raining because of where my office is. I didn't hear anything.
Oh, I knew. I got it while I was in it. So I had a
Oh
coffee meeting
no.
across town. Yeah. Thankfully, I have a very large truck, so it wasn't as big of an obstacle for me. But yeah, I was driving while this torrential downpour was coming down, and then I got the notification from our phone that said be advised of flooding. I thought, well, those of us in it don't need the text message to be advised. We are well advised, but perhaps I guess for folks who were not, that might be a helpful notification.
Yeah. So yes, thankfully we haven't got those storms today. So
That is correct. Hey, Aaron, how are you doing? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, I am. I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
Doing well. Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
Hi,
thanks for
Claire.
having me.
How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for joining. Hey, Melissa. Well, if you're just joining,
Hi.
go ahead, Melissa. If you're just joining, we're going to get started here in about 2 minutes time. Thank you for logging on early, but I always like to give folks right up to the start of time and even a minute or two after for any tech problems that people experience. But again, thanks for being here. We'll get started soon. Hey, Shane. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. All right. Trisha, if you'll let me know screen sharing, is that coming through okay?
yeah, we can see it.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Good to see you, Melissa. Good to see Kevin. How are you? All right. Well, we are just approaching now the noon Eastern hour here for us, which is our scheduled start time. And so, like I was telling the folks just a moment ago, I'll give an extra few seconds for our colleagues who may be having some technical difficulties. I know usually, if history is any indication, there's always one or two that are having some issues accessing the link or getting logged on. But I will go ahead and begin with at least introductions of a few of us, and then others can certainly chime in as well if you would like. But thank you for being here, first of all. My name is Dr. Zac Goldman. I am the program director for the online MBA program at the University of Louisville. And it is my great pleasure to be your host as well today for this information session. There's a lot that I want to share with you, but I'm also cognizant of the fact that we only have about an hour. And I do want to make sure it's not just an hour of me talking at you. I can do that from time to time. And Trisha and others, Claire and many others have heard me do that more often than they probably care to admit. So I will be brief on some of these items, but I do want to mention that up front because if you have questions or would like me to extend or follow up on certain things, I am always willing to do that. That's the beauty of a live information session. You know, if I'm going too long, too short, we have some live people here who can give some feedback, and if there's questions that I'm not fully addressing, would love to hear you ask those questions because that's the real purpose of these sessions is to get not just your questions answered, but to give you a better and a more comprehensive view of what the online MBA program at the University of Louisville is all about. And it is a program that has a bit of an evolving history now. We're entering our 7th year, which is really hard to believe. I've been the director for that entire time, and it's crazy to me that we're now year 7, but there's a lot that has transpired in those years, and so I'll try to give you a Cliff Note version of that while really focusing on what the program looks like today and what it means for students who are coming into that program and the value that it still offers to our students today. We'll talk a lot about that here in just a moment. But my questions aside, or your questions maybe aside for just a moment, I have 2 questions, if I may, to kind of prime us today, this afternoon, as we think about what the purpose of really these sessions are. I would love to know, and whether you want to throw those in the chat or you want to save some of your comments here for just a few moments, I would love to know your thoughts to that first question. Why are you interested? And that's a question that my program director asked me when I started my master's program and subsequently my PhD program. It's what a lot of us will ask when a student is expressing interest into any graduate degree program. But why are you interested? What's motivating you? And I would love to know a little bit more about that. So if you'd be willing, even just to throw a couple thoughts in the chat, I'd love to read those. We have some team members on the call, so my shout outs and appreciation to Trisha, Claire, and so many others who make these sessions possible. And so they'll chime in, I'm sure, as well to your questions, comments, but we do have a functioning chat. And one way to start that is to express some thoughts around why are you personally interested in an MBA. I'll share with you kind of a broad 30,000 foot view of why people in general are interested in an MBA and see if any of this resonates with you. But it is still one of the most sought after graduate degrees in all of higher education. And I think there's a reason for that. And that's because it delivers a tremendous value to one's professional career and to one's professional development. There's so many things about an MBA that I could say, and I'll share a few of them as we go along here. But the one thing that I would make sure to emphasize up front is that there is such a value proposition in what the MBA offers individuals in their career and in the work that they're doing. And I can say that confidently, having been the director for this 7 years. I've seen it from every industry, every perspective, every background. I shouldn't say every. I'm sure there's some that I haven't seen. But we have now over 1,000 alumni from this program. And I can tell you across industries, across different professions and work, this is a program that will give you value if you're truly wanting to learn, develop, grow, and expand your capabilities. And I say that because some people, that's not always the case. Some people, when you ask that question, why are you interested in an MBA? They may tell you, I'm just looking for the letters behind my name so I can get the promotion that my boss said I need an MBA to get. One, I appreciate honesty. So if that's you, throw it in the chat. I'd love to hear that too, because I've met people that way who are also still successful, and I fault nobody if that is your reasoning. But I would love to know, again, what is it that brought you to this call today? Because that is going to determine why and how you navigate the next several months ahead of you, and whether or not you decide to pursue the MBA program at UofL or pursue some other graduate degree somewhere else. I think that question why is such an important one, even though it's short and to the point. Such an important one that you have to answer for yourself if you're going to really understand that journey through your time in graduate education. So I'll let you throw some thoughts in there. I'm going to keep moving forward for just a moment, but I will come back to those. And so I'm curious to see what evolves in the chat here over the next few minutes. The second thing I want you to think about is your questions for the call today. And I did mention that the purpose of these calls is not for me just to talk at you. I mean, I could have uploaded a video recording and that would have done the job better, at least more effectively for you for that. It is to give you some information, obviously, but it's also to take several pauses, several moments to see if that makes sense, what questions you may have. A lot of questions, sometimes people are just too, I don't want to say scared. Scared's not the right word, but it's like, is this a dumb question? Should I see this somewhere? Am I not seeing this somewhere? And those kinds of things, absolutely fire away on this call. We would love to get those questions answered for you today. That's the real value of having a session like this with team members like Trisha and Claire and others and myself. If you have a question today, I don't care what it is about this program, about the University of Louisville, we want to know it. All right. So I want to know why you're interested. You want to know what questions you have. We'd love to answer those for you. So let's make this truly interactive today. And we'll have a chance to do that here shortly with unmuting and weighing in that way. But the chat is live and functioning. I'm seeing a couple bubbles pop in there. I can't actually see the chat right now, but I will look at it in just a moment and try to chime in there myself. So let's start with just a very, very quick overview. I promise this is a slide that I want to move quickly on because the interesting stuff is all ahead. But let's give just a foundation here of what this program really is. Number one, it's an online program. Hopefully the title implied that for you. But it's an online program that's asynchronous. And that's a key component here because that means we don't have required meeting times. That's really essential when you're kind of looking at different online programs. Some of them do. Some of them have what we call a hybrid meeting schedule, or maybe some courses meet in real time. Some courses do not. We do not have required synchronous meeting times for this program, which really speaks to one of our core pillars in the program, which is flexibility. We really try to make sure that this program is designed for working professionals. And that is something that you'll see reflected in a lot of ways. Like I said, it's a core pillar. It's one of the real two foundations that this program was built on. Flexibility, having to be able to meet students where they are, because we know so many times people want to have an MBA, are willing to work for their MBA, but the schedule has to be aligned with them, right? Because maybe they have commitments or other things that will prevent them from coming into the building for a traditional class here at the University of Louisville from 6 to 9 or 6 to 9:30. We understand that there are a large portion of people out there that does not apply to, but we still believe that those people can do the work that it takes to get an MBA. So that's number one, is the pillar of flexibility. But I would argue, because I was part of the original faculty group when we were debating whether or not to even build this program online. And I remember it was a debate. And the short version of the debate was, well, can we do it with the same quality, with the same rigor? Because we've been offering an MBA degree at the University of Louisville longer than I've been alive. I'm not the historian, so I won't pretend to have all the history details there. But for decades, several decades, MBA programs have existed at the University of Louisville. And we know that there's an integrity to that there's a history to that there's an appreciation to that, not just here in the city of Louisville, but throughout all of Kentucky and all of the surrounding region. If you tell people that you have an MBA at the University of Louisville, there's an expectation that comes with that. And that expectation is earned by our students, but we subsequently have the responsibility of protecting it and maintaining it as a faculty and as a group of higher educational professionals, so that next generation, the incoming class, folks like yourself, know that what they're signing up for is in fact a quality experience, that they are going to get a legitimate learning experience from that then translates into better career opportunities, advanced career skills, etc. So the quality / flexibility, those are the cornerstones. They really are. And then subsequently, all these additional program features that you see on the screen here emerge from that, including the asynchronicity, including some of the components that I'll get into in just a moment. I do want to quickly comment, though, on the asynchronous piece, because sometimes people see that and they start, kind of going down the rabbit hole of like, well, what would that actually look like then? One, we still have deadlines, okay? So you still have a structure. It's a very structured program. You're not just left on your own. You don't just throw into the deep end and sink or swim. We'll see at the end. No, that's quite the opposite, in fact. We have a lot of structure. We have a lot of things built into the program to make sure not only you're progressing and having, timelines and milestones, et cetera, but that you're doing so with team members. And I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. It's a cohort model. And so you may think to yourself, or that may beg the question, Well, if we're not all online at the same time doing the work, how does that work? Like, what does that even consist of? Well, I would argue that it looks much like modern work today, right? Many of you are working in organizations where you're at different places, different times. Some people are on in the morning, some people are on in the afternoons, et cetera. So I do think it reflects a very modern approach to work and to getting work done. But we do have some synchronous pieces for those who would like to engage, not just with faculty, but with their peers, with their support staff. We have a lot of that built in as well. So the requirements are asynchronous, meaning you do have flexibility. You can complete this program even if you have evening commitments, morning commitments, weekend commitments, etc. You will need to find time, certainly, throughout your week. And that's where, again, flexibility is not without accountability, right? And I think that's part of the quality argument that we were talking about as well. So I'm going to go through the rest of this as we progress. I'm not going to touch on every bullet point. That's the abbreviated part of the presentation. But if there's things that you see, you want to ask questions about, follow up on, please feel free to do so. I would love to hear those questions in real time or in the chat. And Trisha, Claire, if you see anything coming in the chat that I should speak to, right away, if it's on the slide or anything like that, please interrupt me. I'd love to be interrupted so that we can get to those questions. But let's go ahead and jump into a couple things. I mentioned teams. I mentioned the fact that, in fact, my colleagues hear me say this often, online but not alone. Online but not alone. That's something I say probably, I don't know, Trisha, what would you say? I'm up to a couple times a day, I would imagine. Not to the point where I've tattooed it on my body, trust me. But it is something that I express often, that it is online but not alone. And I think that really does speak to the entire culture of our online programs. And that goes beyond the College of Business. That's at the entire University of Louisville. We believe that working with people, with peers, with your faculty, with your support staff, with your advisors, all the people that make a university like ours possible, we believe those relationships are essential. And so one of the most important relationships that you'll have in any graduate program, and I can tell you this from experience, is that of your peers, right? I continue to work and collaborate in different ways with peers that I had while I was in graduate school, even though I finished my PhD now 11 plus years ago. So you build these relationships and they stay with you, right? They stay with you for a very long time and they guide you and help you in a lot of ways in your career. In your case, for our incoming class of online MBA students, you're going to be paired with some of the very best professionals in the world. We truly have, and I've seen some of the early evidence of this. I've seen some of the applications that are coming in. This coming fall cohort, which we'll talk a little bit more about in just a few moments, this coming fall cohort of 2026 is primed to be one of our very best. They've got some incredible backgrounds, some incredible perspectives, some experiences that I'm personally really excited to work with myself as a faculty member. But I hope that all of our peers and our students will be as well, because there's a lot that you can learn from within your network and cohort of MBA students. And that's why we believe online but not alone is such an important component to online learning. So specifically, what does that mean for you? It means you're going to be working with students from all kinds of backgrounds, different professions, different industries, different ages. Sometimes people hear MBAs, they kind of think of this kind of young, up-and-coming business generation. The average age as of last year for the online MBA program at the University of Louisville was roughly 31 years of age. But there was a pretty large standard deviation there, meaning we've had people all the way up into their 60s, 70s. I think I've even had somebody close to 80 before, but I don't know that for sure. But I know I've had them well into their 60s and 70s in this program. We've had students as young as 21 in this program. So you get a wide range of experiences, a wide range of ages. But again, I would argue that's a reflection of the modern workplace. Just like that, a modern workplace, you're going to get people from different generations, different backgrounds, different perspectives. The MBA is a reflection of that, and I'm really proud to say that this program is one of the most diverse at the University of Louisville because there's a lot you can learn from that. There's a lot that you can experience from that I think is really important in a program like the MBA. More specifically, why is it important to our students? Well, the students themselves say it better than I do. And so these are three of our recent grads, Sarah, Raymond, and Michael, all three of whom I have an incredible amount of respect for. They're all three now alums. I'm not going to read to you their statements, but you can see them there. I know I'm going pretty quick, but this is being a recorded call, so you can always go back, pause that, read those words in more depth. But they are three of now, again, close to 1,000 alums who have graduated this program. And I would argue that most of them would say something very similar, that going through it with a group of people, even though they're online, can make a huge difference. And I think that their words do a really good job of reflecting that. All right, so one more visual here, just kind of give you a sense of this program from again, that person-to-person point of view. It's a program now that has far exceeded and has far expanded beyond the 502 or the Louisville area code, beyond here, even in Kentucky and Indiana and the kind of region. We have students, as you can see here, from, I don't know the exact number, 40 plus, I think now, states. We're still needing to get into that upper northwest area a little bit better. I'm still shocked. My alma mater is WVU. I'm a two-time alum of West Virginia University, so I gotta, I guess, go to West Virginia myself, and I'm gonna find somebody to enroll in the online MBA program at some point. But you can see here it's a program that has gone, again, across really the globe in some ways. This is obviously a map of the United States, but we've got students working and living internationally who are enrolled in this program. Many of them are active duty military members who we are proud supporters of. We work with very closely. I'll talk a little bit more about them in just a moment, but we are an institution that is well designed to support military members with a lot of resources for them specifically, along with a lot of our other student populations. And you see there, I mentioned earlier, the industries, the backgrounds, and you can see just a few of the employers and the perspectives that I was referencing in those previous comments. All right, so I'm going to pause just a moment. I'm going to take a look in the chat. I got to switch screens here for a moment, and then see if any questions so far. So we'll take our first quick break and pause for questions, and then I'll talk more about our faculty, who you see a few of them on the screen here. Yeah, some good comments, though, in terms of what people were looking for. Career growth, and pursuing personal development, absolutely, business knowledge, building their own work, building their own company. Yeah, we get a lot of entrepreneurs, people who are interested in expanding kind of their capacities. Yeah, running a consulting firm in Finland. Man, I love that, Aaron, especially the hospitality piece. We'll have to talk more about that soon, because we're building a lot in the space of hospitality right now. That's actually my next meeting after this one is we're going to talk about our hospitality program. And so that's something that we're really investing in the business school right now, and we'd love to hear more from you. So yeah, it is great to see some of those perspectives represented, and certainly seeing some of the, one of the things that we have that we're really proud of is, again, that representation for students and how widespread that is. So fantastic. All right, I'm going to transition back then to talking about the faculty. But again, if you have questions, please continue to pour them in either in the chat or just simply unmute. We do have a hand raise feature. If you want to use that, that's also fine. But let me talk just briefly about our faculty. We are incredibly fortunate at the University of Louisville to have some of the world-class best faculty members that you're going to find truly in the world. And I've worked at multiple institutions now. I've had a chance to really vet that particular statement, and whether or not I believe it is very much true, because I've seen faculty at other institutions, small, big, in-betweens. We have some of the very best. And why I mean that is these are faculty members, oftentimes very prolific in their research, very engaged in their industries and in their institutions. But also, there's some of the best teaching faculty that you're going to find throughout all of higher education. And not only that, we've built a system within the online MBA that we refer to as our instructional team model. And that means you're going to not only work with our faculty members, our full-time faculty who are right here with me in the College of Business at the University of Louisville, you're also going to work with section leaders. So we break up into teams and sections, and you'll have designated people there as well to support you. And these section leaders, I often argue, they're the unsung heroes of the online MBA program, because these are folks who are oftentimes active professionals and practitioners in their respective areas. So this is a leadership course that I have visualized up here on the screen. Dr. Ryan Quinn, a full-time faculty member in our department, Management and Entrepreneurship, but somebody who's done some incredible work, has written books on leadership, all kinds of things that you should at some point look into him and all of our faculty's backgrounds. But he has an incredible team that he's built. A few of them you see on the screen here that all of them have engaged in some pretty extensive and some pretty prolific leadership experiences in and of themselves. So you get that best of both worlds, I would argue. You get that academic who really does study, train, understand this on an in-depth level. And then you also get the practitioners and the professionals who are practicing this, using these skills in the industries that they represent. And so I think that's really the sweet spot, especially for an MBA program. You want, that cutting edge information, the new research findings, all the things that make an MBA program special, but you also want that really practical, down to earth skill set. And I think that's how you do it, is have a team like this that really helps prepare our students for what's to come. So In addition to that, we do have, again, a wide range. I mentioned that for our students, but it's the same for our faculty. We have a wide range of experiences represented amongst these instructional teams. And so I just put a few up here of the different companies and different backgrounds that are represented amongst our current group of online MBA team members. But there's a whole lot more I could put on here. In fact, I'd fill the whole screen with logos and industries and things if I really wanted to, because they have such a wide representation of truly work across the spectrum. So you may be in a very specific niche type of industry, and you may have very specific types of challenges or questions. I am more than likely going to guarantee you. I won't put that in writing just yet, but depending on how niche and how unique it is, and I'm sure there's an exception out there or two that I haven't thought of, but we're going to have a well-rounded faculty who can help you, who can work with you. If you have a question about, I'll give you an example. Here in Louisville, Kentucky, the distilled spirits industry is a pretty powerful one. It's a big one, a big part of the economy. We have faculty members who specialize in the distilled spirits industry. If you have a marketing question about, this distilling and can I market here, guess what? We got faculty members who can help with that kind of questioning. And that's true for a lot of other industries as well. And that's one of the things I love about that team model, because you get that overall well-rounded representation. What about the classes, you asked, Dr. Goldman? That's really the meat and potatoes of it all, right? What we're actually going to be taking, the classes, the coursework, etc. Let's talk a little bit about that. So on that first slide, again, I told you I wasn't reading bullet points to you, but that one of the first slides I talked about 5-week courses. And I talked about how you take one of them at a time for the most part. And this gives you a good illustration of what that might actually look like. So for students starting in our fall cohort, it's pretty traditional for our fall cohorts to start, I believe, mid-August. I think this year might be like August 18th-ish is our start date. But that aside, August comes around, we take one class at a time, typically for 5 weeks at a time. And so what that looks like, and I'm going to break it down for those who want the credit hours, who want the workloads, all that kind of stuff here in just a moment. But big picture first, what that looks like is you're functionally taking 3 classes for the majority of your semesters in the online MBA program. We are a 20-month program that's broken up over 5 semesters. And so when you think about that and look at that over a calendar, those who are intending to start this coming fall, August of 2026, will be enrolled starting in that semester and then onward through the calendar year of 2027, and will graduate in May of 2028. And so that is the next class that is scheduled to start. That is the next cohort who's getting ready to begin their journey in the online MBA program. And it also is a journey that is intentionally designed. And so when I say 5-week courses, you may say like, well, what's up with that? And why only one? And can I add more? Can I take away? Let's get into some of those, because those are always the FAQs. We do have a structured schedule, especially for the core semester. So we don't add a lot of flexibility there, because we want you experiencing and going through the program as a cohort. And it's intentionally designed. So I'll give you an example. First semester, you start with applied microeconomics. Why? Well, it's because it's one of the cornerstones or foundations of business in general. I need to know supply and demand. And some of you are like, I already know that. Great. Well, we're going to talk about it on an advanced level. We're going to really make sure that at the master's level, you understand things like pricing elasticity. Why is it that you can raise a certain price or a certain product or certain service to a certain point, but then eventually, it drops off? What is that all about? There's actually formulas to that. There's actual theories to that. There's actual work that's done to help explain that, so that you understand the next time there's a pandemic. Knock on wood, I'm hoping that doesn't happen. But the next time it happens, if it does, you understand why the toilet paper is the first to run out. It's like, well, what the hell? Why is the bread and the toilet paper always gone? Well, applied microeconomics will explain that to you. I promise you. It'll give you a real foundation so that you're not guessing, nor are you running to the grocery store in a frantic panic to get your supplies, because you will have a good foundation for that and how it affects everything in terms of business. That's a cornerstone. Second class you'll take is actually mine, Strategic Managerial Communication. How to be a manager. What does that even mean? What does that look like? And not just a manager, how do you communicate in a way that it ideally prepares you to lead? Which you'll notice leadership is not till later in our program, but how do you communicate in a way that people actually want to follow you? People want to engage with you. People are eager to have you help them in various ways, and do so in a way that you can actually scale that, right? So that we can prepare you to become, if you choose to be, you don't always have to be, but if you want to be a senior leader and you want to run a large organization and you want to be able to scale what you do and how you do it, well, then you have to be strategic, you have to be able to manage, and you have to be able to communicate. Those are 3 things that are also cornerstones of the modern business professional. And so that's why it's also there in that first semester. And again, if you're following the math, 5 weeks for the first class. That's the only class you're taking at that period of time. So 5 weeks, subsequently 5 weeks for your second class. Now we're 10 weeks into the semester. That's about, let's see, Halloween time. Okay, so you're running from August to September, September to October. Right around the beginning of November, you'll start your third class, which is going to be statistics and data analytics. So much of an MBA is quantitatively oriented, right? You think about your finance courses, your accounting courses, even your supply chain courses, your marketing classes. A lot of them are going to have quantitative components to them, meaning you're going to need to know the numbers. You have to. Every business professional, especially MBAs, are expected to know the numbers. So having that as your third cornerstone, think about just what we did there in that first semester. We've given you a business foundation, we've given you that personal, professional skill foundation, and then we've given you the quantitative foundation. Now you're going to be really primed to be successful in the subsequent semesters that follow a similar pattern. So it still equates to 3 courses every semester, which our courses are 3 credit hours long. The majority of your core classes are 3 credit hours long, which means you are taking approximately, and it's not approximate, it is an actual number, although there's some subject to variation in those later semesters due to your electives. I'll caveat that and tell more there in a moment. But you're taking 9 credit hours a semester, which means you are a full-time student in terms of federal regulation and making sure that you qualify for those who are interested and who are doing so, and or if your employee or employment status requires you to be a full-time student in some capacity. 9 credit hours at the graduate level does warrant and qualifies you for that status. So those are a couple things. I know I'm throwing a lot at you. I'm making you drink from a fire hose. I apologize. I've given this presentation probably about 100 plus times, so I can do it in my sleep at this point. But if you have questions, please slow me down, make me say something again. I'm happy to do that. But that gives you a sense of the calendar and how it works, right? And then you repeat that with different courses. I'll just quickly now comment at the semester level. Your second semester really becomes quantitatively heavy. Accountings and finance, that's the one that people struggle in. If you don't have those backgrounds, people kind of get a little bit of anxiety. We work with you very closely on that. We are aware of that some people don't have a deep quantitative background. There's not, people don't usually come into an MBA already being an accountant, for example. Some of them do. There are the few that do. But we don't expect you to be accountants when you come into the program. We work with you to get you up to speed on modern accounting principles, along with finance as well. That third semester for the fall cohorts, that's a really exciting one. That's where you're introduced to your international trip. I'll talk more about that in just a moment. It is also, though, a time where you transition again back into some very practical domains. So infotech management. How do we manage emerging and modern technologies in today's workplace? That seems pretty relevant in today's age, right? We got all the AI stuff happening. We will talk about AI here in just a moment. I promise that's coming up as well. But you got all that happening. You have a lot of transitioning in terms of systems because of AI and other technologies. How do you manage that? That comes up in your third semester. Your fourth semester, I start to call it more or less the capstone semester. You won't see that listed on the website, but it's a lot of integration. It's things like strategy. How do I put this together coherently? How do I make sure that what I'm doing, I can present to other people, that I can lead an organization, or I can prepare a business team to follow a plan? That's strategy, right? And so you're going to get a deep dive there, along with leadership, which is how do I lead? How do I execute and organizational behavior? So all that comes in the fourth semester. And typically, again, for our fall cohorts, you're going to have electives, which are my next and subsequent slides. That'll be in the fifth semester. So again, I'm throwing a lot at you. I'm doing a crash course version, but I want to make sure I'm giving you as much as you can handle, and then also prime you for some questions if you have any in just a short moment. All right. Before I start talking about this slide, which I love talking about, it's one of my favorites amongst the slide deck, this and the trips. Questions, comments? And Tricia, Claire, anybody else, if I have overlooked anything, please, up to this point, please let me know. Going once, going twice. Oh, sorry, Melissa, I see yours in the chat now. Does the program allow you to go slower than 20 months? That's a great question, Melissa. Technically, no, we don't have that. It is considered a full-time program, but it's the longest duration full-time program we offer. It's 20 months. Anything slower than that would be a part-time program. And we do have a lot of flexibility. And what I mean by that is when situations come up, life happens, and it happens a lot to online MBA students because these are, again, working professionals who oftentimes are either parents or caretakers or a lot of other things that they're balancing. They're engaged in community stuff, they're traveling, they're living life, right? A lot of times stuff may come up. I'll tell you the one that comes up quite often. Somebody gets reassigned a new job, or they have to move, or family matters, right? They're expecting a new baby, or whatever happens. We do have plans in place to help students who need what we call pause outs. So sometimes that's our way of working with students who maybe need a little bit slower route. It's not something that we design initially, but as things come up, or if the pace is too fast, or you just get in, you're 2 semesters in, you're like, whoa, something's happening, whatever it is. We do have team members and myself who work with each of our students individually to get them a plan to still be successful. So those kinds of things we do have. As far as a structured, slower part-time program that's equivalent to this, we do not. This is actually the slowest one we have, and that's 20 months across the entirety of the program. Yeah, absolutely happy to help. See a few comments still coming in for August 26 cohorts. Would the third semester happen in the summer of 2027? Yeah, great question, Shane. And that is correct. Summer for us is around the start of that May time period, late April, early May. And so I'll talk about that, especially as it relates to the international trip, because a lot of people, that's the big question that they have is like, if there's an international trip, when would I be doing it? How long would it be? Am I actually going to be in a position to do that? Trust me, I've got another slide or two coming up that I'll try to answer as many of those, if that's the origin of the question. If it's not, then yes, it's still the same answer. It's the summer of 2027 will be your third semester. Yeah. And I should have mentioned that too. It is essentially a year-round program. We do have a week or so break in between semesters. We also have an extended break in the month of December. And so most of December, I would argue, is a break because you take like the first week of class in December, and then you usually have starting around the second week all the way through the first week of January. You'll have off. It's the longest break by far in the online MBA program is over the winter holidays. But outside of that, it is a year-long program, or year-round program, I should say, that does extend over the summer. Yeah. Great questions. All right, moving forward. Let's talk briefly about this. I promise you're going to get a whole lot more about this, so I'm going to just try to cap myself at 2 to 3 minutes on this one. One of the biggest challenges of graduate programs in general, but particularly graduate business programs, is that they are pretty structured. You just heard me talk about how structured ours is, right? And that structure is by design. It's meant to help support students be successful. But the trade-off, the caveat, the downside of that is that it doesn't always provide as much choice in how you're applying what you're learning. And that's where my background comes in. That's something I've been very passionate about. I've studied student autonomy for years now. And it comes out of the field of psychology. There's a lot of people who've contributed to that. But in short, we need choice. Choice matters. Choice matters to all of us, right? We want choice. We don't like being told what to do all the time and you have no option in the matter. At the same time, you don't want unlimited choice. It's what I call the Cheesecake Factory dilemma, right? You go to Cheesecake Factory, you open that menu, there's like 40 pages, and it's like, you get kind of limited by how much information you have and how many options you have. And so imagine if your faculty just said, all right, choose whatever you want to do to apply what you're learning, and I'll assess it. Well, that's way too much choice, right? That's uncertain. That's overwhelming. So what we have provided within the structure of the online MBA program is what we call the cardinal choice designation. It's an opportunity to choose one of 3 pathways and pursue an area of your interest by completing assignments tailored to that area. So for instance, if you are somebody who is wanting to focus their MBA, and that's why I asked the question at the beginning, toward their career and their career progression, you may be intrigued by pursuing the career track. And the career track will allow you to tailor assignments to your career so that you have a totality of work that ends up resulting in a career plan. Think about this, 20 months down the road, you're finishing the MBA. Not only have you finished the MBA, now I have a real roadmap for where my career is going to look like and what resources I'm going to need and what opportunities I'm going to need to be willing to consider. That's really valuable. It's something I didn't have coming out of grad school. Something I still don't really have, right? I've made plans. I've kind of thought out my own career. But to have a designated time like this with faculty members like ours to guide you through that process, that's a pretty invaluable opportunity, in my opinion, and one that you might be interested in. Perhaps though you're not really doing it for that reason. Perhaps you're more interested in like the bigger state of things. I'm in higher education. That's a lot of change right now in the industry that is higher education. And I want to be a part of that change. I want to figure out how to navigate that change, not just for myself, but for my team members, for my faculty members, for my students, and help lead into that next iteration of whatever higher education looks like. Then I might choose the industry track, because that's going to allow me to kind of look big picture and really take a consideration from multiple lenses about any industry of my choosing. The last one, I might be more of a problem solver, and I'm looking for somebody who, or I'm looking to solve an ongoing or lingering issue, maybe a thorny issue, something that doesn't have a clear resolution to it. Then I might be interested in the issue track, where I'm going to actually spend my time not just trying to solve a problem, but first unpacking the problem, getting to the root of the problem. So oftentimes we solve the symptoms of a problem without ever really trying to get down to where the problem originated in the first place. It's just like the weeds in my garden, right? I can snip off the top of the weed, and then a week later, it's like right back here. It's like, well, what happened? Well, I didn't root out the problem, right? And so you've got to figure out how to do that. The MBA program can certainly help with critical thinking and a lot of different perspectives woven into the curriculum. And then not just under you understand it now, then can I solve that root of that problem? That is a track designed for the issue, or that is a opportunity designed for the issue track. So much more to come on that. When you start the program, we actually do a full in-depth Cardinal Choice kickoff session. So I will, again, I told you I'd try to cap myself at just a few minutes on that one, but a lot that we can share once you get started in the program. I do want to talk briefly about our electives, because we have an incredible portfolio of electives designed to, once again, give students some choice, because that core curriculum is pretty set. But the electives are where you could really start to specialize your degree. And it's an opportunity to really think about and focus in on a number of areas that might either be personally or professionally interesting to you. There's two ways to think about your electives. The first is kind of represented up here at the top of the screen. So you've got the sample electives. These are all individual courses. And we have in total 50 plus average individual electives that we offer yearly in the online MBA program. So that's an opportunity that you have to choose kind of what I call the a la carte approach, right? So, I want to take a little bit more about AI. There's a lot of stuff happening with AI. I want to learn a little more about it. Great. Take an a la carte approach. You can start piecing together some AI courses. You're going to learn quite a bit about that if that is what you want to study. Maybe it's finances. I love the finance course, but we only have one required finance course. Maybe I'll take a few more. Great. We got courses in that too. And you can kind of follow that train of logic for most of the areas that you would expect in a business school to offer. That's one approach. The other approach, though, is that we do have embedded within the program a portfolio of graduate certificates. This is not your a la carte. This is more of your bundled package, right? Where you can take a series of courses that fit in directly into your MBA. So there's no additional charge or upcharge or anything like that. But it's actually a standalone graduate certificate or credential. So it's kind of, I always say, it's academics, we're not good at kind of packaging this in this way, but it's essentially a 2-for-1 deal, right? Because you can get your MBA, the normal, what you're paying tuition price and things for your MBA, but you can also, in so doing, while you complete your elective credits, get a graduate certificate. And right now we offer 5 graduate certificates in the areas of business of healthcare, distilled spirits, franchise management, horse racing industry, managerial analytics, with a 6th, that being entrepreneurship, on the way. And I do think for our incoming students, that would be something. It's already approved. That's why I'm able to speak about it. It's a matter of operations and logistics when we'll have that up and available for our students to take. But that is something that you will have opportunities to pursue, is also an additional credential where you specialize in one of these areas. And when I say standalone credential, I do just want to clarify, this is a true standalone credential in the sense that you would get a certificate, a certification from the University of Louisville's Graduate School, recognizing your specialty and your accomplishments in one of those 5 areas, or 6, as I mentioned, on not only your transcript, but as again, a standalone credential that you have as a recipient or as an earner of your MBA as well. So great opportunities there. Again, you get a lot more information about all this once you're in the program. We do a lot of information sessions, a lot of emails, a lot of meetings, stuff like that to explain all that. But a lot of things to look forward to when you get toward this point of your program. Speaking of looking forward to, I reached my favorite slide. Trisha knows. I have to put this near the end because if not, if I led this with it in the beginning, we probably wouldn't get to much else. The global trips, man, I love our global trips. They are incredible experiences. They are life-changing experiences for those who really lean in and embrace it because they are truly, I think, not only well designed, they are transformative in what they offer. And what they offer is a chance not only just to see a completely different part of the world, which can be transformative in and of itself, but to do so with your colleagues, to do so with your fellow MBA peers, to do so with your faculty, to do so with not just like-minded people, but people who are asking some tough questions alongside you with international business leaders. So when you see and read about things that you'll inevitably see and read about in your time in the program, whether it be internationalization or global supply chains or international markets, and you're like trying to make sense of like, okay, what does that really mean? What's that really look like? Well, what is that actually? What is the effect of these things in practice? Well, let's go to Dubai and let's ask some global bankers, what their actual work is, and how does that actually affect me here in the United States? Okay, I learned a lot when I sat in on that session myself. When you go over to somebody like Cambodia or Thailand, and you're seeing where some of the goods and the services are some of the goods and manufacturing that you are maybe either wearing or that you've purchased or whatever. Where does that come from? What does that actually look like? And it not only shapes the way you think about things here in the United States or wherever you may be residing, it gives you a much better appreciation and a much better frame of reference to be a true international business leader, should that be something you choose to pursue. And so I cannot speak highly enough about these experiences, and the best parts, a couple of the best parts. Number one, they're embedded into the program. What do I mean by that? Well, you get credit hours for actually completing these experiences. It's a small amount. It's a 1.5 credit hour course, but it is a course that applies towards your core curriculum, which you may then immediately beg the question, well, what if I don't travel? What's that look like? We do have a non-travel option for our global learning credits, so you don't have to travel. It's not a requirement. But I always tell people you really, really should consider it, especially because it's a well-planned experience. So, upon your arrival, upon your orientation, we tell you, like, here are the tentative dates for your trip. Start thinking about it. Start planning about it. Start talking to your significant others, your bosses, your colleagues, your whoever you got to talk to. Like, these are the dates, throw them on the calendar. Let's start working toward it. And then our team works with you to give you a lot of information, all the forms you need, all the stuff that you'll have to complete. They really do make it seamless. We have such an incredible team that supports that. And shout out to our graduate programs office and to our travel partners that we work with. If you've traveled internationally, there's some headaches sometimes when you do that. There's a lot of things you don't know. And I didn't know I needed to fill out this form until I landed and blah, blah, blah. They take care of that stuff for you, right? Now you have to still fill out a lot of stuff, but they're the ones that organize it, put it together. Great question, Melissa. I knew I was forgetting something. How long do these trips actually last? 10 days on average is what they last, but there's plus or minus a day or two in there depending on where you actually go. Again, Cambodia and Thailand, which is where I was last year, it's about a 22-hour flight. Total, with a stop for us at least was South Korea. And I think that was it. Yeah, South Korea to Cambodia. But that's about 22 hours. So that was maybe an extra day, especially because you lose, make sure I'm doing my math right. Yeah, you lose 12 hours going there. So I remember we left on a Friday and we arrived on a Sunday. And time had no meaning at that point. I was on the other side of the globe. Night was up, or night was day, day was night, and my sleep schedule. But you adjust. That's the short version. You definitely adjust, and we can give you some tips and advice for people who are traveling to that side of the world. But if that's something that's not interesting to you, or the time zone part freaks you out, or whatever, we went to South America the year before that. We were in Argentina and Chile, and actually Chile, I think, is only a 1 hour time difference from us. Obviously south of the equator, so it's a different season than us, which is something that your mind takes a day or two to get used to. But it's a different, not that different as far as time zones and things go. So a lot of options. We usually have 3 to 4 options each year for you to choose from. We run multiple trips simultaneously. So if you look at, you're like, hey, I don't want to go to Southeast Asia. Okay, well, we have some other options. Here's some things that you have available to you. So all that gets finalized and disclosed to you shortly after you get started in the program. But I do know our team's already hard at work planning for next May. I talked to one of my colleagues who's really working on that already, and I'm excited. I'm excited for next year and what our students will have to participate in. So before we talk about some final deadlines, some components here, and I'll turn some time over to Claire because there's a couple things I think she can clarify much better than I can. Claire, by the way, is a member of our recruitment team, works very closely with our admissions team, so she can help answer some of the next couple of questions. I want to pause before we get to that, if that's all right, Claire. I gave a lot of information, a lot of additional things that I threw at people. Let's see what other questions might be on your mind. And what other things I can speak to before I turn some time over to Claire to talk about our upcoming deadlines and application processes. Not hearing any. Give it another moment. In graduate school, by the way, it's one of always my favorite stories to tell when there's awkward silence. They would require you to teach classes as a graduate student where I was at. And you had one class, they required you to present the students with at least a minute's worth of silence. And when you're in a room of like 200 plus people, that's an uncomfortable feeling, especially if you're the instructor. But you get used to it. So, and it's part to help solicit time for questions. So I love that was part of my training, because now silence is not actually the worst thing in the world. It's nice not to hear my own voice on occasion. I see, looks like a couple chat bubbles in there coming in, so we'll give that just a minute, and then I will properly, like I said, introduce Claire and anyone else who would like to speak to that. Yeah, Aaron, just U.S. citizens mean living in the U.S. or U.S. citizens? I live in Finland, but I am a U.S. citizen. It's a great question, Aaron. I don't know specifically about whether or not in terms of the travel piece or some of the other things. I would imagine you will be just fine when it comes to really all the program requirements. But I am not
I was
the
referring
best
to